Hola, amigos. This lady, she gonna cut me off. I'm going in reverse. Anyways, how are you guys today? I want to apologize. Let me fix my camera here. I have not had a video in like a week or two. I've been trying to gather and collect information, intel. I'm trying to channel messages. And then once I'm like onto something, here comes like 50 more thousand messages. So it's hard to like be progressive with one topic when they're all blended. So in a nutshell, I'll kind of just summarize a bit of everything that I've gathered. If you hear some screeching, my brakes need to get changed out. So as you guys can also tell, I have been dealing with hives. It is part of the ascension process for some people, so I kind of been holding back on putting out videos because I just like to be a little bit presentable. That's all. I get self-conscious about hives, and as many people have known, I deal with an immune dysfunction. So hives has a lot to do with it does attack the immune system because it is a virus. So I've just been a little bit self-conscious lately about my image and look, and also too because I teach exercise, I'm in front of large groups of people, and so often what happens is they mistake me going through an immune attack, or it's kind of like lupus. The body fights itself whenever any new foreign free radical is entering the body, because I've never had hives before. But people will say, oh, are you eating? And it's just like, oh, why are you saying that? And I have to find the strength to not be affected by that. So my challenge of the last couple of weeks has really been, how do I just avoid people and their when they're being naive, you know, or I don't know. I also want to share with you guys about the connection to the sun. I was speaking with someone the other day, and we were talking about the phrase "son of the sun," S-U-S-O-N of the S-U-N. And what she had shared with me was, she was like, oh, that's Jesus. And I was like, you mean Jesus, the Son of Man, Jesus? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I was a little bit intrigued, because I'm like, wait a minute. If the Son of God, let's say that, for example, is the S-U-N, which is the shining thingy on us, then who was the man who walketh upon the earth? The Son of Man. So then that's when I started getting triggered. And triggering's weird because unlike channeled messages, sometimes I don't intend to get information. It just pops in my head. But when there's a triggering, what happens is a lot of information and a rabbit hole opens and I can't stop. So this rabbit hole basically was saying that it was as above, so below. So all the things that happen in the etheric manifest, man effect here on earth. And so Jesus, the only ascended master, was the only knowledgeable, wise. He paid attention to everything. Something we all achieve to be like in our spiritual journeys, I hope. But you better work that walk, girl. Yes, she's hiking and switching like Beyonce. So basically, there was only one begotten Son. I was kind of like thinking, why would there be one and only begotten Son? And the channeled message was that was coming to me was that there is only one source. The source of this. Oh God. The Son is source, right? And the Son itself, the energy that is the Son, that begotten the Son, has a higher entity. I don't know what God is. If God is everything, then he is of source as well. He is his own Son. It's kind of hard to explain that, but just think of there's something higher. Below that is source, which is the Sun, which is how plants regenerate, revive, which is how we thrive. This is how we maintain the melanin in our body. This is what gives us Kundalini energy. This is what gives us Chi energy. This is why a lot of times when you tan, you look better, or you look worse because you tan too much. How it affected here on Earth was there had to be someone to break up the consciousness, the direction of where consciousness was going. So, for example, if you were a galactic being, I don't know, like Ashtar, and Ashtar from the future went to the past. Think of Ezekiel's wheel. You guys really have to know what I'm talking about in order to understand what I'm saying. Ezekiel's wheel appeared a couple times in the Bible. It was a way of time travel. Someone introduced something in the past. Otherwise, Revelations wouldn't have been written. Long story short, stop at brakes, please. I know I need to get them fixed, you guys. I know. Tomorrow is my day off. Let's say if this Ashtar were a real being, he went to the past, he dumped a lot of information on people, he showed a 6-pointed star, and thus a certain practice, a certain culture, and a certain I'm not saying Jewish. I have to be very careful with that. But what I'm saying is people utilizing the same image of the Star of David and putting different symbologies within the Star of David. Where in the Bible does it talk about a star? And where does it talk about a man named, like David the king, King David? He was led astray because he was distracted by Bathsheba because she was so fine. You know what I mean? So that's the only reference of David that I have in my mind is David was such a noble and wise king, but long story short, he didn't really fulfill the promise because he was led astray and his army was led astray. Long story short, moving on. I see strange activity. I see a lot of strange activity. Anyways, did you guys see that car behind me? It was like right on my butt. Anyways, I'm just trying not to get distracted. But basically what I'm trying to say is the 6-pointed star is the key. That was the focal point of, hey, something is weird. We need to look at why people can believe that Ashtar is their lead, is their point person of this galactic federation. And I thought it was the beings that are from Venus who are the ones who really are the forefront of guiding our politics in the better direction that it should go. I don't know. I'm just putting a lot of things together. I just can't figure it out, but these messages are pouring through. So I was in thought process with my channeling, and I was thinking, could perhaps Jesus, being man affected in the conscious and the physical, let's say he was born of a virgin, maybe that was the race to get here before everyone else's consciousness was shifted, but it was a little too late, because when Judas kissed Jesus and called him rabbi, it sort of threw a wrench in the engine. So that's why all of us are here now trying to awaken everybody up because we are in our Christ conscious embodiment. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. But I think this Ashtar, I just don't feel comfortable with anybody who says, you know, hey, 6-pointed star. I just don't understand what is significant about it. I need to understand, why is it positive? Because there's a lot of symbols you can pull from. I hate to do this, but there's a lot of symbols you can pull from the Star of David. There's so many symbols. Is it the pentagram that's in the middle? You know, and in the White House we have Pentagon, which is the same shape. So people don't really think to put the two together and think all this control and dominance is originating from some source. And that source doesn't put Jesus as their, you know, commander-in-chief. I'm seeing this with a lot of new age groups now. They're putting Ishtar and Ashtar, and I'm like, you guys, I know what y'all trying to do. Because in Mesopotamian civilization, Ishtar was the goddess who basically seeded the first group of men. So this has a lot to do with that group over there. It doesn't have a lot to do with us, our group. People have to start understanding that there's so many different races and different groups that are within this whole movement. And even like they say Adam and Eve and this and that, people have to understand too that if Adam and Eve were the first of that group, this is between that source and that group. Doesn't have to do anything with us. A lot of us take on the accountability and the affliction on behalf of that group or those groups over there. So this is a long topic. I really didn't know how to organize myself making this video, but I really want to put it out because I'm just seeing many being led astray because they're not following history. And reading a lot about the past can really help shift the future. Like I was even saying on my Facebook how so many people are so quick to proclaim Trump as the biggest, you know, racist bigot ever, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, what about Thomas Edison, who had 6 children out of wedlock by his handmaid? You know, there's racism right there. What happened to the president during what was that, black slavery? Was that 1940 to 1960? What happened to the president then who could have overruled there should be no slavery, black should vote? So we point fingers at some things that are not obvious by the mouth, but then the things that were physically evidential by the physical actually seeing it, people are not, I don't know, I always wonder, like, where the hell do we live? Last thing I want to discuss is, so let's say that, back on my topic of the sun and source. So then you have the divine, which is made up of masculine, which is the protection, the overseer, the holder of the light. Divine feminine being the light, the source. So imagine like light bulb, right? You have masculine being all the constructs of holding that light, and the divine feminine being that light. So our bodies basically being the physical, the masculine, the internal, the light, that being the divine feminine. When the two finally are in a harmonic rhythm, now we're walking our divine path. And a lot of times people think, oop, there goes my channeling. A lot of people think, oh, well, you know, when I smoke weed or I drink, you know, I just kind of, it doesn't really matter. This kind of happened in my vision state yesterday because I was feeling bad. The last 2 days, I was a little bit distracted because I was looking out for somebody who was in a really bad situation. It's kind of cool because I'm starting to understand the burdens. I don't want to cry. I'm starting to understand the burdens that I had before, why I went through such a dark period. And I've never had an issue in the past with addictive personality. And then when I had this awakening experience, it was like that was the first thing that happened was addictive personality. It was something that someone else had, and it was like it became my timeline, it became my life. My whole family's alcohol issue, that became part of my timeline. You know, and I like to verbalize things. I do not have a sexual addiction. However, what's weird is every time that I see somebody who might have sexual attraction towards me, I feel that because I'm an empath. And then it sort of manipulates my body to think, I like this person. And what happens is they don't like me. They just want what mama has. And so I'm sitting at a date on Sunday, and mind you, my date didn't even buy dinner. He just ordered drinks. And I was like, I already know where this is gonna go, where it's not going to go, okay? And so he was like, yeah, we have like chips and salsa, it's free, but how many drinks do you want? I'm like, but I read into the date I had on Sunday, and I was like, yep, he doesn't even want to know what my soul is. He just wants bragging rights on his arm to his friends. He just wants to show off to his friends. I scored me a hottie. And mind you, what I was talking about a while ago with the 6-pointed star, this person was an industry person. And he had a lot of money, he worked on a lot of films, he worked with a lot of celebrities, he put a lot on the table, and that's when I said, nope, sorry, I can't do it. I don't know if it was like a plan to, because I for some reason in my mind, I write this novel where this particular group they can only marry or wed within a certain melanated group of people, because sometimes melanated people, some people think the blood of melanated people that's what they call the lamb in esoteric practice. Esoteric really believe that it was one Lamb of God. The Lamb of God meant it was the bloodline. Everybody who's melanated is a blood of the Lamb. And there's a subliminal message, because anything that's on a field that's consuming grass, grain, anything of the earth, that is of God. That is the bread of heaven. That's what it really means. Interpretation of that. That's what I got this morning. So cows and lambs is sort of the two where you want to think about. I wouldn't say horses, but that's why you have 4 horsemen as a reference: horse, cow, lamb, because they're all livestock. They constantly are on the field, consuming the radiance from the sun, the light of the sun, and the growth and the rebirth, all that. All of life is in those 3 animals. I don't care what else you think. But a lot of people who consume those animals, that's what they consider melanated as well, because they can sustain the sun, they can stay out and not burn. Their health or immune system is not compromised by being in the sun. That means they can hold the light. So back to my date. Once I connected and felt like, oh, he only wants me because of my light. Not because I am the light, or I try to be, but it's because I provide life force. I'm a generator. A lot of people, I'm not going to say you guys, because I wouldn't want to put that on your life, but a lot of people, you're living literally to generate what is coming off of the sun, and you're fueling that into people. So I ran into someone on Tuesday, and I saw that this person was struggling, kind of going through something that I recall I went through. His soul was calling him to wake up, and I kept telling him, hey, do you have a spiritual journey? Do you believe in something higher? He's like, yeah, I believe in something. Yeah, you know, I have a soul. And I'm just like, oh, he's just so sad. And he's lost, but it's only here lost, but his heart knows. And there wasn't anything that my attention and jokes, and like even in my house, like where I live, it's so protected and guarded, and there's so many different items that if anyone can look at it, they would go, wow, this guy's very spiritual. It did not even dent his system. So I won't say his name, but the letter starts with an A. And mind you, I would rather have been with A in the situation than in the last 2 days of trying to help build him up and put him back. You know, like I had talked to a sober coach. Let a sober coach know that he's in a safe environment. There aren't anything that he could get to, or, you know, like he's good. He's just probably gonna lay down, hydrate, eat some food, and feel good about himself before he goes back into his home. So props to me. And it's cool because I felt like there was a whole dark chapter of my life, which I don't like to talk about it because it's nothing. You don't never want to brag about accomplishing something like addictive personality, because the energy of it always haunts you. You dream about it, you smell something and it might affect your chemicals in your brain, then you start feeling a certain weird way. So I had a fear of that, but I felt like since helping him, I closed the chapter. It really did feel like, wow, this is exactly what the universe is telling me, which is recharge your battery. And now the timeline that I've been battling for so long, I felt like I finally just handed it back to the universe. I didn't take advantage of this person. I made sure that he didn't reach out to anybody for things. And it was just like, I don't know, just kind of weird. Like even when I tried to give him a hug, he was so shoulders up, and you know, it was a very sincere story to me. Out of all my experiences and encounters that I've had, I call this shadow work, because once you meet people and they have a certain level of frequency, let's say they have a low level of frequency, or someone might be possessed, someone might not believe in God, the moment you acquaint with them and you're someone like me, you basically had just took all of what they're going through and now it's in your timeline. So to constantly have to clear yourself of that, sometimes you have to go with the storyline. Basically meaning, I like being friends with this person. He's kind of handsome. Let's see where it goes. We go back to my apartment, and guess what? He fell immediately to sleep, and he had an astral projection. And then he was able to tell me like what happened in this astral projection. And he was saying, you know, this story about the spiritual journey, does that have a lot to do with this? Where I went, what happened? And I was like, yeah. So it was kind of weird. He was watching the things that I was doing, lighting Palo Santo over him. It was just sort of like, that's just what I do. I go home, I make sure I relieve these attachments off of my body. As you guys know, there's about 20-30 people who take my exercise class a day. So there's a lot of energy that is all around me. And it's not the best energy sometimes. I have to transmute, and that's one thing that I also received as a message today, is that people of light, we're thrown into darkness because we transmute. You don't have to do work to do that. All you have to do is really be in the presence of. Sometimes when you guys are walking by something and you look at it, like, you know, if there's a fight on the street and you're driving, if you guys do drive, and you see people fighting, you just go like, oh, why are they doing that? For some odd reason, they stop until you pass by. Or I look at, you know, transients or homeless people, how they're walking a certain direction, and then as soon as your car passes them or you're walking by, they stop and freeze, like they're frozen in time. That's you doing that. So all in all, I never thought of it this way, because a lot of times I guilt myself of my past, I guilt myself of my recent past. Sometimes I'm not feeling like I want to do spiritual work. I don't want to be a 24-hour apostle. I don't want to be a walking, talking, hi, and all that. That's just not who I am. So it's just funny when a couple weeks ago when people were trying to bully me and troll me on social media, saying that this guy is God complex, he's a liar, he's a fake, he's a phony. I'm like, I'm not walking in any form of light intentionally. I am just trying to talk myself out of being negative as much as possible. And these things, like even this reflection of light that you guys see, refraction, those things come to me. I didn't ask for it. But it's beautiful because I feel like out of so many, I'm paying too much attention to it. Like I've noticed how this used to be colorful rainbows, or it used to be purple in certain images that I have. Now it's like gold. So it really reminds me that we are going to somewhere, we're getting close to something, or something is coming close to us. I said a lot in this message. I'm going to continue this dialogue because I just want everyone to know wherever you go, that resin follows you and things change. Like you guys might even realize, let's say you just start a new job and the boss that was there probably wasn't a good person and maybe they got fired or replaced. Or like my apartment complex, they're doing renovations right now. I'm like, why when I just move are there I can understand, because someone of the magnitude such as us going to a space that has been run down, broken, and boring basically, you're shifting that. Your energy shifts. You may not be someone who's proud of yourself and who you are, but it doesn't mean that resonance isn't there. I think that's what's wrong with the country is, there's a license plate with a 333 in front of me. I think a lot of people need to stop feeling sorry for themselves and start knowing that it doesn't even matter what the outer shell or what's the garment or what have you. It doesn't matter if you curse. I get it. People smoke weed. People drink. People go to the club. But as long as you're paying attention to that inner light all the time, you're focused, you're really trying to transform your life because that light is so life-changing for you. It's almost like you rather focus on that rather than pay your bills. Like that's how you know you're on the right path. Or you're so exhausted because you're trying to figure out, how do I grow in this journey? How do I grow in this gift? And I just don't know how to do it. You're on the right path. When you break out in hives because you're stressed over someone attacking your spiritual group and feeling like you almost want to delete the group because it has so much negative energy, that means you're on the right path. I haven't deleted it. I refuse to delete it. Or, this Sunday I sat down with one of the wealthiest men I probably have ever met, who could have got me a job choreographing for a musical. I don't want that. My soul wants to have its own free roam to create moments for people, to have life-changing moments. I'm a dance teacher, and that's what I tend to do. It's just what it is. Or, a guy who probably didn't have money to his name, but wanted to escape into his thoughts and self-medicate, found his way to a safe person, and you know what? He didn't steal, he didn't make me feel bad, didn't get derogative. He was just very kind and peaceful, and I have that kind of trust with the universe, with God. I just trust that whenever things approach me in such a gentle way, I know to allow it to rule itself out. Just don't interfere. He probably just needed a couch to sleep on and feel better about himself, and probably just needed somebody to say that there's nothing wrong with you. You're totally fine. You're okay. Don't worry about it. And I commend him because had I taken those steps to better my darkness, I don't know, I always think that. I always think, I could have been in a greater, bigger, better spiritual direction had I blah, blah. Nope. Everything is exactly how it should be, the way that it is exactly. So always remember that, people. I'll let you go. Have a great rest of your day. And I will talk to you later. Bye.